What is up, everybody? Welcome to The Shift right here on Spotify, Apple, YouTube, all that good stuff. It's Francisco Rojas for you, and technically the first pod of the new year in 2026. Hope you're all having a great start to your new year. I know I am, and we have a trade. We have a trade to start the new year. I'll get you caught up on some of the other recent signings involving two of the bigger Japanese stars that was on the market this winter, and we'll find out where they went. If you missed it, we'll get into it. But the Cubs just traded for I don't want to say a star pitcher, but a pitcher with star potential. So we'll get into that in about like 10-15 minutes. And then I want to talk to you guys about events I'm looking forward to. And still, it's January 7th. So I still want to get into events that I'm looking forward to in 2026 in baseball in general. And then also, I just watched The Natural for the first time. So I want to kind of just give you my thoughts on watching that movie for the first time. I know you're going to say, like, oh, I mean, I'm 31 years old. Maybe I should have seen this already. Look, I've seen a crap ton of baseball movies. Never watched The Natural, but I actually watched it with my mother over the weekend. So just want to get into some of my thoughts on that movie a little later in today's episode. But where I want to start is somewhere where I was actually thinking about doing this topic earlier in the week. And I kind of thought better of it. Not thought better of it, but I was like, I don't know if that's maybe something I should do this week. But I put a Twitter poll out on this topic, and you can go follow the Shift for future Twitter polls or just anything in general. But at the Shift_media, and I put this poll out earlier. I think it was over the weekend. Technically, it was on Sunday. And the question was, is Shohei Ohtani a Hall of Famer if he retired right now? And it was just a yes or no question. And I was surprised with how many people voted yes. 71% of people voted yes on Ohtani being a Hall of Famer. If he retired right now, Shohei Ohtani, he would be a Hall of Famer. And majority of people thought that Ohtani should be in Cooperstown, even if he retired right now in 2025, 26, and in 2030 be eligible, and you think he's in the Hall of Fame. That's what people think. And again, I wasn't thinking about doing this topic, but now that I've seen the results of this topic, this is what we're leading the show with. Because I'm going to be honest. Look, Ohtani is something that we have really never seen. Last time was Babe Ruth, pretty much. And Shohei Ohtani is doing it better than Babe Ruth from pitching and hitting. He was doing it better than Babe Ruth was doing it with the Red Sox, 100 plus years ago. I get it. Ohtani is doing an unbelievable, unthinkable things to this point so far in his career, where he's been, 6 years with the Angels, 2 years with the Dodgers. I mean, 4 MVPs in 5 or 6 years. Had a 50-50 season a couple of years ago. I get it. Amazing things. But can we slow our roll? Ohtani is not. And I know MLB Network kind of did one on Judge within the last, week or so. And it was like overwhelmingly that Judge is a Hall of Famer. I don't want to get into that. But Shohei Ohtani, he's been incredible. He's been unbelievable. He's at this point, he's the face of the sport. He is the most unique athlete I think we may have ever seen. Considering, he throws 100. He can throw a nasty slider to go with it. And then he can also give you 50 home runs. He can steal 59 bases. He can win all these MVPs, and all these things are incredible. But the thing that he lacks, the reason why Ohtani is not a Hall of Famer to me, if he were to retire right now, is because he lacks longevity. Longevity to me is still important. It's still an important thing when it comes to being in the Hall of Fame. I think that players who I think you have to at least have played. I mean, he's got 8 years in Major League Baseball, 8 years, and he's hit 280 home runs. He's got 1,050 hits. I know he's got the 4 MVPs. I know all of those things have happened, but I just don't see where 71% of people are saying he's a Hall of Famer. Yes, for this stretch of time, for the last 5 seasons, it's been absolutely unbelievable what we've seen Shohei Ohtani do. But just because he's done this in a 5-year span, and he's played 8 years, and he's been, again, one of the best players we've already ever seen, you've got to have the longevity to go with it. You can't just have, I know as incredible as a player he is, and as unique and as a unicorn as he is, you can't just have the peak and then that's it. Because right now, Ohtani, what we're seeing right now, and I know it's different. I know it's different than other players, but still, his value as a player, he's still in his peak right now, and you can't just make the Hall of Fame from just having 8 years of playing time and being in the midst of an incredible peak. It just doesn't work that way. I'm sorry. You've got to have the peak. You've got to have the longevity to go with it. You've got to have both. You just do. There aren't really any, I don't think there's many exceptions to the rule. There's other players that had short careers, but like somebody like Joe DiMaggio, who had a bit of a shorter career, but some of that was marred by, his military service. But Joe DiMaggio still ended up in his career with 79 WAR. And I think he had over 350 home runs and, some MVPs. He had, to me, he still had 13 years in Major League Baseball. Ohtani's got 8 years. Like, you can't make the Hall of Fame off of just playing 8 years. I'm sorry. You just don't. There just has to be that the a certain amount of time that you have to play. Now, where I think Ohtani can get to and then retire and be like, okay, now he can make the Hall of Fame. I think if he has 2 more elite years, I think we could, and if he just hung it up after having like more 40 to 50 homer seasons and also being able to start full seasons in Major League Baseball, it's going to be tough for him to do. If he can have 2 more seasons of like what he was back with the Angels in like 21 and 22, or even 23, where he had, at least 130 innings and had an ERA around 3, even the year in 22 where he had a 2.3 ERA and 219 strikeouts. You get mesmerized every time you look at his numbers. You get carried away. I get it. He's got to have those type of, I think he's got to be able to stay healthy here and have those type of years. If you want to talk about him retiring after a super short career, if he does another 40 to 50 homer season, along with maybe he doesn't even need to have the pitching to go along with it anymore. Maybe he just needs to have like between 350 and 400 home runs, and maybe even one more MVP. If he has 5 MVPs and he hits 350 home runs, gets close to 1,500 hits for his career, obviously maintains the everything else, like the average, the slash line stats along with OPS. If he just maintains that, then we could start talking about him just retiring right now. He's already a Hall of Famer. We can do that already. And I think he's at 50 career WAR right now, somewhere around that, combined between his pitching and hitting. I'm looking at it right now. He's 16.1 B WAR with pitching, and then he's 35.4 B WAR with his hitting. If you combine that, it's around like 51. If he can get like close to, if he could get 60 WAR, right? 60 WAR, 350 home runs, another MVP. I think that might be enough to just, okay, Ohtani doesn't want to play baseball anymore. He just doesn't want to do it anymore. He retires. Then we could talk about Hall of Fame. That's like what, 10 years in Major League Baseball. Then you get double digit numbers playing in the majors. Then we can talk about it. Then we can. But I think for right now, I'm looking at this poll, and 71% of people say Ohtani retires right now and he's a Hall of Famer. I think that's a little too far. And maybe and I thought maybe when I put that out there, I thought it'd be like maybe at best 50-50 or at most 50-50. But people would say yes and no, between yes and no. I didn't expect 71% though. So, but I would love to hear people's, thoughts on this. You can tweet me at Rojas_media_. You can also tweet the shift, and you can leave, comments in the YouTube under the video here. And I'm curious, man. I'm really curious to know why you think Shohei Ohtani should be in the Hall of Fame if he were to retire right now. I am. I'm curious. Because he's had an unreal career to this point, but I just don't think that if he retired right now and didn't even play in the 2026 year, I don't think that would automatically make him a Hall of Famer. I still think he needs a couple of more years, playing at an elite level, or even just like 5 years of, just being at a good level. But I don't think we can really see him stop being an elite baseball player at this point. I don't think I'm viewing him to have like 20 to 30 homer seasons and maybe pitching a little bit. I don't view that. I think we can just continue to at least like next 3 to 5 years expect Shohei Ohtani. Maybe not 5. I don't know, but maybe 5's going too far. But the next like 2 to 3 years, we can expect Shohei Ohtani to continue to have these unbelievable seasons, or at least elite years. I think that's it's something that's definitely plausible to expect. So I am curious to know where people are on that. Is Ohtani a Hall of Famer right now if he retired? All right, let's get to meat and potato of episode 105. A couple of things that I want to get into, but first thing I want to start with is the latest hot stove transactions and rumors, but really just transactions, because that's all the 3 biggest things to get to here from the past week, because I do want to touch on these Japanese player signings. Number 1, Cubs finalize a deal to get Edward Cabrera. Now, there were reports that the Yankees were also interested, but the Chicago Cubs was first reported by Michael Cerami of Bleacher Nation. But then Jeff Passan, within the last like hour or two, had just tweeted out that it was official that Edward Cabrera goes to the Chicago Cubs in exchange for Owen Casey and 2 other hitting prospects that go to Miami. Now, Casey came up with the Cubs this year, and I think played a couple of games, hit his first career home run with them. He's in the top 50 prospects according to MLB Pipeline, and he was their top prospect too for the Cubs. Casey, I guess I think the number one, the first thing is the Cubs aren't, they're definitely not going after any of the other pitchers on the starting pitching market now, for sure. Like Framber Valdez, Ranger Suarez, any of those guys. I think now they get Edward Cabrera, kind of rounds out their rotation now, which I still do think they have a pretty good rotation right now as it stands. So I actually do like the deal for the Cubs for the most part. I mean, you think about their outfield right now. I guess it's Seiya, Suzuki, Pete Carl Armstrong, and Pete obviously is a stud, having the monster year that he had for the Cubs this year. But and then you have Ian Happ out there and left as well. So I guess maybe they viewed, maybe there's not a spot for him. I'm not really sure, but they obviously valued their pitching this year. So, I mean, as it stands right now, the Cubs rotation, Matthew Boyd, Edward Cabrera, Cade Horton, Shota Imanaga, and then Jameson Taillon. And then you got Justin Steele, which, depending on when he's, ready for the season, I mean, he's coming back from Tommy John, or at least, elbow surgery. So we'll see, what's going to happen with Justin Steele. But I think rotation for the Cubs looking good. Rotation for the Cubs looking pretty good. And Miami, I think it's a good, in a way, it's a good deal for Miami. They're trying to, I think there's been reports about, them getting rid of Cabrera, them getting rid of Sandy Alcantara, obviously, as well. So, but the Cubs get Edward Cabrera, and then the Marlins, on the other hand, they get back Owen Casey, and they're going to get two other hitting prospects that we don't know of right now. So Owen Casey, two other hitting prospects go to the Marlins, and in exchange, the Cubs get Edward Cabrera. The other Japanese players that I wanted to mention, the Astros signed Tetsuya Imai to a 3-year, $54 million deal. Now, there were a bunch of teams that were in on Imai, but the Astros, and I would say this is probably, I don't think they're really going to go after much starting pitching now after this. I doubt they would, but I mean, I guess you never know necessarily. But right now, it's a pretty good rotation, honestly, if you ask me. Hunter Brown, Christian Javier, Imai, McCullers, then a mix of potentially Mike Burrows and Ryan Weiss, at least how Fangraphs has the rotation slated out, but they also have a couple of others that are, come back from Tommy John as well, including Ronald Blanco, which is a big one right there. So the Astros getting Imai, and curious to see how his stuff translates in the majors. And they get him on a 3-year, $54 million deal, though. So, I mean, what you have with Framber and Ranger to this point. I mean, Framber's been, awesome with the Astros since he came up, 6-7 years ago. And Ranger's been, generally pretty good for the Phillies since he came up with the Phils as well. So you knew what you're going to get with those guys, but those guys were going to take longer term contracts. But you're taking a chance here with Imai. And look, you got Hunter Brown, who's a stud. You got other arms in that rotation. Hopefully Christian Javier can have, maybe he can get to where he was a couple of years ago. I mean, the Astros still have potential there with that rotation, but we'll see with Imai. You are taking a chance. I mean, you're taking less years, less AAV by going with Imai over somebody like a Ranger Suarez, or a Framber Valdez bringing him back. So they get Imai. And then the Blue Jays also, they signed Kazuma Akamoto on a 4-year, $60 million deal, going along with a $5 million signing bonus, and will have no opt-outs. So the Blue Jays, who have been active this offseason, obviously starting with their Dylan Cease mega deal at the 7-year, $210 million number to start the offseason. And obviously they're trying to, capitalize right now of coming off being inches away from a World Series win, just about 2-3 months ago now. So they are trying to, give Akamoto a chance to see what he can do in the majors. Hit 40 plus home runs a couple of years ago. He's been really good over in Japan, and they're going to try to give him a shot. And I wonder what this means for Bo Bichette too. I wonder if maybe this is a little bit of security. If Bichette doesn't come back, does this mean that they are not going to re-sign Bichette? I don't know. I still think Bichette is a Blue Jay if I had to bet on it. But I mean, there's that report from John Heyman that the Phillies are now interested, among other ones, among like the Cubs, the Yankees, and a bunch of other big market teams that are interested in Bo Bichette. So curious to see what's going to happen with Bichette now that they sign Akamoto. I'm just really, really curious because the Blue Jays, Bo is obviously has been a big face of the franchise there. And, they come back in the World Series, had a big home run and, ended up playing second base there for what, a game or two. I'm curious to see what happens with Bo Bichette if he comes back to the Blue Jays and what the Akamoto deal can mean for that. I'm really curious. So Curious to see what happens with a Bo Bichette now that they sign Akamoto. Next thing. Now, again, we are a couple of weeks away from the results being unveiled for the Baseball Hall of Fame for 2026, the Baseball Hall of Fame ballot. And for this year's ballot, we are just, again, like I said, a couple of weeks away. But shout out to Ryan Thibodeau, who for years now has been doing his Baseball Hall of Fame tracker, where he has, the list of the players that are on each year's ballot and has each player's percentage on the ballot, going from ballots that are already known. And I guess he has public ballots, and he also has anonymous, unverifiable ballots. And maybe those are ballots that are sent to him, but are asked like, hey, can you keep me anonymous? Maybe something like that. But this isn't necessarily a end all be all for what the results are going to be, because sometimes we get these Hall of Fame trackers, from Thibodeau, and you end up seeing the results and they're either a little off or they're just off, which happens. We only know right now from percentage of ballots known, or 35, almost a little under 35%. So, but I did want to, bring this up here because I do think it is a good talking point for where we are, a couple of weeks away from the Hall of Fame, and a couple of things that I'm surprised at here. And I don't know about surprise, but let's get the easy ones out of the way. Like Beltran and Jones, I'm not surprised at all. Like I think it's par for the course with those two. I think that the two guys that are going to get in this year, the two guys that are going to get in this year, Carlos Beltran and Andrew Jones. Beltran's at 88% right now, with these 140 public ballots, and Andrew Jones at 83%. And those are, again, like, I'm not surprised with those at all. But where I am surprised at, maybe should I not be surprised, Chase Utley's at 67%, around there. And if you want to go watch my video on Utley, I just did a Cooperstown cases, and I did a Chase Utley one. And I broke down why I felt Chase Utley is not a Hall of Famer. And, I know there's people out there that do think he's a Hall of Famer. That's fine. I'm surprised. I know this is year 3 and it's a weak ballot. Chase going from 30% to 40% in year 1 and year 2. And now in year 3, at least according to these ballots we have known right now from this Hall of Fame tracker, Chase is at 67%. That's 8% away from enshrinement. And do I think he's going to hit that this year? Probably not. But I think it's grown as I've watched this Hall of Fame tracker. I think last time I checked, it was somewhere around like 60 to 65, and it's only grown. I'm really curious to see what's going to happen with Chase Utley. I didn't think he'd get in. If he was going to get in, I didn't think it'd be this fast. I thought it'd be later down the line, 7, 8, 9, 10, those years. But you look at the next couple of years of the Hall of Fame, like they're not like stacked ballots. The next, honestly, the next 3 to 5 years are going to be really interesting what happens with these Hall of Fame ballots and who doesn't get in. It's going to be really interesting. But Chase at 67%, Felix Hernandez, 59%. Felix. I would not think that Felix gets that much, but you look back at the numbers, and he obviously had his peak where he was one of the best in the business, and did end up with 2,500 career strikeouts and really good ERA and all those numbers. I'm surprised Felix is all according to this tracker, 59%. Andy Pettit, 56%. A-Rod at 48%. But I guess here's my thing. I guess I shouldn't be surprised because of it being a weak ballot. Like every single one of these guys is their numbers have grown, at least most of them. And I guess you're going to get that with a weak ballot. But I guess I didn't expect that with Felix. I didn't expect it with Chase. Those guys I didn't expect. Everybody else is about par for the course. So I am interested to see what's going to happen with some of these other guys. But really, really interested to see what Felix and Chase end up with at the end of this cycle, because it is interesting. If Chase ends up with like 70%, it feels like it's almost a lock that after year 3, if it's somewhere around that he's going to get in. It really feels that way, but we'll see. we'll see. Maybe it goes down in years after just because of being a weak ballot. But again, they're not like super duper stacked over the next 3 to 5 years, at least from what I've looked at. So, yeah, really really curious to see what's going to happen with some of these guys going this year and maybe going forward, and looking at this Baseball Hall of Fame track grid is really interesting. So shout out to Ryan Thibodeau, who does this every year. I think it's really a really good resource if you are, definitely like into the Hall of Fame, and just curious to see where players are on each ballot and how they might be tracked. So it really is interesting. But that's from about 35% of ballots known so far. Again, I mean, we still got 65% or more of ballots that that aren't known. So, I mean, it's just, you can take it with a grain of salt to a certain extent, but I still do like the Hall of Fame tracker. And then to close out the meat and potatoes, I wanted to talk about events I'm looking forward to in 2026, because I think there's a good amount here that I'm looking forward to as a baseball fan, and I have 3 events for you to look forward to this year and why it's going to be an exciting year. So, number one, definitely, World Baseball Classic starting, I guess, March 4th if you're on the Eastern, on Eastern time. It's March 4th technically at 10 p.m. But if you're in the West, or if you're in Asia, somewhere else, it's gonna be March 5th at like 1 a.m. or something like that. Or yeah, well, at least on the West Coast. In California, it'll be March 5th at 1 a.m. But the WBC starts, and obviously this is gonna be it could be interesting year too, because the US is just so stacked. They're even, a lot better than they were, 3 years ago, at least pitching wise, definitely. Now offensively, they were great a couple of years ago, but they're great again offensively. But the pitching this time around, when you got Scooble, Skeens, Logan Webb, Joe Ryan, Mason Miller, amongst a bunch of other guys, it's going to be really exciting for the WBC. See if Japan can try to repeat. Puerto Rico, Dominican Republic, I mean, they're no joke too. So that's probably your top 4. Then you got Venezuela, teams like that. So Cuba as well. So it's going to be, I can't wait for the WBC. Also, the Field of Dreams game. That's going to be, well, I'll go to Field of Dreams in a second. All-Star game. All-Star game is going to be, and look, maybe there's a little bit of bias here because I do live in Philly. I'm a Philadelphia sports fan. I have been my whole life. So All-Star game being here at Citizens Bank Park is going to be super exciting. I mean, I would love to know from people out there, if you all listening, if when the All-Star game maybe came to your city, like for you, was it I have to be there? Like, I have to. Like, there's no ifs, ands, or buts about it. I got to go to the Derby. I've got to go to the game. Like, I've got to be there for the festivities. Like, what was it like for you if you're living in a different city? Maybe you're not in Philly or somewhere else. And I know we have listeners and viewers outside of Philly for sure. This being just a baseball podcast, or a general baseball podcast. I'm curious to know, like, what was it like for you if the All-Star game was coming to where you reside, or at least close to it? Because for me, and this is a unique year too, because it's the 250th anniversary of the United States. So there's even, that, element to it. And there's gonna be a lot of events this year just because, it being the 250th year of the US. But yeah, I am curious, like, what was it like for you if you live in New York, if you live in Chicago? Like, what was it like for you? Because, like, for me, the All-Star game hasn't been in Philadelphia since the mid 90s. I want to say 96, 97, one of those years, like 95, 96, 97, one of those years. That's the last time it was here. So I never got, I was just a baby. Like, I never got a baby or toddler. I never got a chance to see the All-Star game. Last time it was in Philadelphia. That was when it was at Veterans Stadium. So now it's going to be at Citizens Bank Park. And also it being at CBP. CBP is one of the most beautiful ballparks in all of baseball. I don't know if it's because people don't like Philly, but like CBP always seems to feel like it's an underrated ballpark to this point, just being like beautiful. I think it gets the respect that it deserves a little bit in the postseason just because of, how raucous fan base is. But I don't know, man, like CBP is probably a top 5 ballpark in all of Major League Baseball. Obviously, Wrigley and Fenway are in the kind of a class of their own, just because them being the historic ballparks. And, you got Oracle Park up there, or is it even Oracle anymore? The Giant Stadium. I forget exactly what it is, but you do have beautiful, beautiful parks in MLB. But I mean, CBP is one of the most beautiful up there, man. Like, I think it's a top 5 ballpark, and it's going to hold the All-Star game this year. So I'm really looking forward to it. And clearly I am biased here. So I'm at fault, but I am biased, but the All-Star game is really exciting this year. And for me, like, I got to do whatever I got to do to be able to be there. So All-Star game. And then Field of Dreams, again, a little bit of biasness because the Phillies are playing in it. But the game between the Twins and Phillies, we play on August 13th, and it's going to be on Netflix. Right back in Dyersville, Iowa. It's been 3 years since it was the Cubs and the Reds, right? Wasn't it the Cubs and the Reds? I feel like I'm getting it. No, it's either the Cubs or the Reds and the Cardinals and the Cubs. But I'm pretty sure it was the Cubs and the Reds. And then the year before that we had the Tim Anderson walk-off. How awesome was that? It being the first time being the Field of Dreams, and Tim Anderson does that. It was amazing. So, I think even just not even speaking from being a Phillies fan, but like I think just speaking for all baseball fans, I think it's exciting to have this, have the Field of Dreams games be back. But I will say, trying to put my bias aside, as a baseball fan, it kind of sucks it's the Phillies and the Twins, though. Like, at least give us a rivalry or give us two of the best teams in baseball. I mean, the Twins are kind of in rebuilding mode. So, I mean, they sold off everybody at the deadline last year pretty much. And the Twins aren't going to be that great of a team this year, probably. But the Phillies will be a good team, even if, depending on what they do the rest of this offseason, the Phillies will still be a good team. And the Phillies make sense. I mean, both these teams make sense to a certain extent, but the Yankees and White Sox made sense. The Cubs and the Reds, I really hope I'm getting it right, because if I keep saying this, I sound like an idiot, look like an idiot. But I'm going to keep saying it. The Cubs and the Reds make sense because they're two historic franchises. So that made sense. But now, the Phillies and the Twins, it looks kind of dumb, not going to lie. Looks kind of dumb, but I think just the Field of Dreams game being back, I like having the Negro League games. I like having the Field of Dreams games. They're really, they add this element to the sport that I think the sport needs to get more eyes on the game and everything like that. One sport that I also like to watch is hockey, and they have absolutely, in my eyes, for the most part, have ruined the Winter Classic with having all these other stadium series, and now doing it on January 2nd, not even doing it on New Year's like they have in the past, and having it a warm place in Florida, where, I mean, hockey is a cold sport. It was dope to have it at cold venues, in Boston or New York or Philadelphia or in Detroit, places that are cold, or in Chicago, places that are cold. It was mild, but I'm not trying to go off on a tangent there. I'm just all to say, I like the way baseball is doing it with Field of Dreams and Negro League games, which is kind of having these games every other year. Or they had the Speedway Classic this year too, between the Reds and the Braves. And I like how they're doing this, where they're having something different every year. They're capitalizing on that, and they're also not oversaturating it. Because I think that's something that's important with these games, is that they're not being oversaturated. So far, Major League Baseball has done a really good job at not oversaturating it. Little League Classic, don't really care for. You are going to have that again this year, like you've had it every year. Little League Classic's cool. But again, none of these games are really being oversaturated. The baseball has done a pretty good job with it. Don't really care that much for the Little League Classic, but it is still something that they do. So those are the three events I'm looking forward to this year. All-Star Game, being in Philadelphia, Field of Dreams, having that game again, World Baseball Classic. So those are the three that I'm excited to see. Any others that I'm missing? I don't think I really am. I haven't mentioned Little League Classic and everything like that, but anything else that I'm missing, I would love for you to let me know about any events that we're going to see in 2026 as far as baseball is concerned. I want to say Major League Baseball, but World Baseball Classic isn't Major League Baseball. Major League Baseball players, but you get the point. All right, let's get out of here with three more topics. That was the meat and potatoes. Let's look at a couple of more topics that I have for you on episode 105. First thing, I don't even know if I really care about this because, what the A's have done to themselves. Feel bad for the fans, but just recently with the Athletics, the A's were recently denied a trademark to be the Las Vegas Athletics or Vegas Athletics. The U.S. Patent and Trademark Office recently denied the A's request to trademark the name the Las Vegas Athletics or Vegas Athletics. It said something along the lines of it didn't stand out enough from other things that it could be involved in Vegas. So they get denied that. I mean, the club plans to move there in Nevada in 2028. I mean, they're still going to be in Sacramento, I think, again. So you know what? Almost in a way, good because, I mean, it is weird for them just to be the Athletics, but I mean, they're not even going to be in Vegas, or at least they don't plan to for another couple of years. So A's are denied their trademark to be the Las Vegas Athletics or the Vegas Athletics. Also, Don Mattingly recently was hired as the bench coach for the Phillies. He was planning on retiring, but I think either his grandson or his son or somebody in his family encouraged him that you shouldn't be done yet. The 64-year-old, former, Yankee great, and was a manager for the Dodgers and the Marlins. And the last 3 years was bench coach for the Blue Jays, and again was apparently thinking about hanging it up and just being done, being any type of anything in the game anymore. But now he is going to be the bench coach for the Phillies for at least the next couple of years, and he's going to be working with his son. His son is Preston Mattingly, who I think is active GM of the team, along with Dave Dombrowski being president of baseball operations. So that's going to be really cool to see Don Mattingly staying in baseball. And I think most baseball fans are happy to see Donnie Baseball staying in baseball. Somebody that people have been trying to advocate to be in the Hall of Fame the last couple of years. And, but Don Mattingly going to be the bench coach for the Phils. So we'll see what happens as he's going to work under his son, technically, right? So that'll be really cool. Last thing, wanted to talk about The Natural real quick. Mentioned at the beginning of the show, I'd never seen The Natural before. It was the first time. It was something that I had put off for a long time, like watching this movie. And I had seen, obviously, the famous clips of it, hitting the lights, with the walk-off home run in the end and the lights just like shattering and sparks flying, going everywhere. It's like an iconic moment in, sports movies history, probably movie history just in general. I'm not that big of a movie guy, but I would say that it probably is. And it was a movie that, again, I'd never really, I think I planned on watching it. And then, it's funny, my mom mentioned it to me. She's like, I know you've never seen that movie. Like, let's watch it. So we did. And I walked away from it being like, it was good. I wasn't obsessed with it. I don't put it up there with, like, for me growing up, I love Rookie of the Year. Maybe it's because I was a kid, but I love Rookie of the Year. I still love Rookie of the Year to this day. A lot of the movies I watched as a kid, I still have a place in my heart. I still love them. Rookie of the Year, classic to me. I don't think it's as good as Rookie of the Year. Angels in the Outfield's legendary. Sandlot, obviously legendary. Moneyball, great movie. There are some obviously legendary bit. Field of Dreams. Mentioned the Field of Dreams game. Field of Dreams. I wouldn't put The Natural up there with that, but The Natural still had that feel to it of, I walked away from being like, this was still a good movie. Now, maybe the one thing that kind of had me walking away from it being like, oh, this is a great movie, was probably because I don't know how much of a great job they did with after he gets shot and he comes to, play for the New York Knights. They don't really ever really detail or at any point of like what really actually happened to him. Like, he kind of, I think, was talking to his childhood sweetheart who they, met up while she was in, he came to play in Chicago and she was there and went to see him play and they met up. And I think they're whispering to each other, kind of, not whispering to each other, but they're talking to each other, and you can kind of hear them the way the movie's shot. You can kind of hear them talking about it, about Robert Redford, who look how great that is. I can't remember this freaking main character's name, but he was talking to his childhood sweetheart, and he he was like saying to her that it was gonna piss me off, so I had to look it up real quick. Roy Hobbs, yeah, it's still like a legendary name to a certain. That's why I was like pissed off at myself. But he was like telling her like what he was doing the last 16 years, and he kind of explained to her, but it was like hard to hear, and I had to like Google after I watched the movie like what really happened to him and everything like that, and someone like explained exactly what happened to him that he was telling his childhood sweetheart or high school sweetheart, whichever it is, of what really happened. I was like, how can you really like make out what he was saying to her? I didn't. I had trouble with that. Maybe I just bad hearing. I don't know. But I don't know. There was that. It was look. It was a good. I ended up enjoying the movie, but it wasn't like, oh, I need to watch that again. Again, I'll probably go back to the other classic baseball movies that I've watched in the past. I don't know, but I thought it ended up being a good movie. I didn't like love it, but I don't know, man. Just the detail of what happened from then, and then you really never really find out. I feel like you never really find out. I know it's probably symbolic of other stuff. I've read that online too, and I get all that, but I don't know. Just yeah, I don't know. But man, I'm curious. Like people have seen it. Is it a classic? Is it a great movie? Did you like it? Did you not like it? I don't know. But I just watched it for the first time. So I am curious for that. All right. So that's going to do it. Episode 105 of The Shift. Follow The Shift on all the social media platforms. Follow me on Twitter. All that good stuff. Let me know everything that we talked about in today's episode. You can let me know in the YouTube comments. You can also tweet me and The Shift. So that'll do it for me. I'll talk to you guys soon.